All right, everybody, welcome to episode 54 of Talent Dad, the podcast where we're going to explore the intersections of education, leadership, and personal development. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Skansen. Today, we have a truly inspirational guest. I met Neskens a few months ago and had the pleasure of talking with him, and I am so excited for his interview today and being able to talk with you. Our guest, Neskens Jr Dorcelus, hails from Haiti and is now touching lives across North America. Dynamic public speaker, fervent advocate for youth. He's got this really impressive background that spans from attending St. Charles Garnier Catholic School to pursuing a bachelor's degree at Andrews University. He is a certified neurolinguist, programming practitioner. He brings a unique blend of resilience, empowerment, and hope to the table. His work primarily focuses on bullying and youth empowerment and self-awareness. So with that, welcome to the show, Neskens. Welcome to
Thank you.
Talent Ed. Why don't you tell us a little
Thank,
bit more about yourself? What's
thank.
been happening?
That's wonderful, man. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is indeed a pleasure of being here into this atmosphere where we continue to create and find more ways to make education leadership more effective, especially in the difficult times that we are in today. And thank you so much for your leadership in doing this work. Thank you so much for having me as well. So, like you said, I was born and raised in Haiti. Uh, I moved a couple years ago. I immigrated to Canada, where I am living today, and uh, I studied at College Boreal, Andrews University. I have a background in neurolinguistic practitioner, and that's been my work. So I started this work of bullying because of also of what I've experienced.
Hmm.
And from speaking to student, it carried to speaking to teachers. Now also speak to professionals, employee, especially dealing with workplace toxicity and workplace bullying. Here in Canada, one of the most toxic industry is the healthcare industry. So I bring my work as well to that
Hmm.
industry in making sure that they are taking the step necessary to create a safer workplace environment. Because I believe that life is hard enough. We don't have to deal with workplace bullying and
Hmm.
workplace toxicity for up to 40 hours a week.
That doesn't sound fun.
That
You're
that
completely
does not
correct on
sound
that
fun
one.
at all.
Yeah, I mean, your journey has been really inspiring. And you've told me some of the background and what led you to this topic. Um, what drove you to dedicate yourself to public speaking, specifically around bullying and empowering youth?
Yeah. No, thank you. Well, the number one thing is what I've been through. The number one thing is what I've been through and being able to see other young people going through it and decided to be a voice for them to be part of the process. So pretty much my story again started in Haiti. I grew up in a divided home. That's one of the first painful situations that I had to
Mm.
deal with as a child, where my mother and my father were not together. So on the weekdays, I used to spend my weekdays from Monday to Friday at my grandparents from my father's house, from my father's side, and from Friday evening to Sunday evening from my grandparents from my mother's side. And depending on the year, we will switch. And sometimes in the summer, we will switch. And that become my childhood. So the very first experience of my childhood, it was growing up in an environment where I had people taking care of me when it was not fully the responsibility. And even though I am very grateful for my grandparents, my aunt and uncles and cousins that have been around to support me, but the truth is you could see the resistance
Mm,
where, especially with the grandparents that I've raised adult children, now they are now raising, grandchildren
mm,
because of the failure of the relationship of my father and my mother. Uh, by the age of 11, by the age of 10, my mother came back to Haiti. And for 11 months, she was sick until she passed away.
mm,
And the difficult part of our passing was not just she died, but also how she died. For 11 months, we have to watch her suffer. And that's around the time where I started getting involved, serving in youth groups, serving in churches. And I got lucky to get churches giving me leadership to run camps and run different youth activity for other youth around my age at a very young age, at 10 years old, 11 years old. And every time I am out in the community serving, I have to run back home and watch my mother slowly die.
mm,
And there's nothing I can do about it. And then December of that year, she passed away. Just 1 month after, we experienced the most devastating earthquake that the world have ever seen in
mhm,
Haiti. Over 300,000 people passed away. And now my family and I, we had to sleep in the street for almost 6 months because our home were not safe. I can still remember there was a little spot in front of my grandparents' neighbor's house that was so dirty. My uncles did not allow me to play there. And now 6 families were sleeping there.
mm,
And just after that, we were hit with the epidemic of cholera. And, it was not as severe as the COVID-19 pandemic, but me and my sister, we contracted that virus. And that's the first time I thought I was going to die. And another painful situation that I had to deal with is not having a relationship with my father till this day. In my years of living, I will keep my age out of this, but in my years of living, I have 4 years of experience of living in the same house with my father. Um, After I moved to Canada, my father got married, and then that did not go well with the dynamic of the children my father already had,
mhm,
and the new relationship he was building. And me and my older sister were put out of the door, and I was still in grade 12. My older sister was in just entering college, so she was in her first year of college, and I was, in grade 12. That was December of my year of grade 12, going into my second semester. So the only reason I was not homeless at that time as a high school student is because I had an aunt that lived 30 minutes away from me, and she decided to took me in and to embrace me, to support me in my journey. So, and the painful situation that cover all of that is having to be bullied physically, verbally, and through social media, cyberbullying, for the shape and size of my nose.
mm,
I have a bigger or larger size nose than most people, and I constantly got bullied for it. I can still remember in elementary school when I showed up in grade 5, a student removed all the item from his backpack. He put his bag in my head, pulled my head to the back, and slapped me 3 times. I can still remember having to go to school, and then students are passing my pictures on social media and creating memes. I can still remember one of my most difficult situation. A student went on Snapchat, customized a Snapchat filter with the shape and size of my nose, and
mm,
passed it around the school. And student could just literally go on his platform, go on his profile, click up the filter, and put it on front of their face, and their nose become like my nose. And in all of this, I had painful situation I was dealing at home. I had painful situation that I was dealing with personally. And now having to go to school, there was that painful situation that I gotta face when there is something that about myself that I cannot change, but somehow become the topic for other people's pleasure.
mhm,
And through that process, one of the teachers came and rescued me and said, Neskens, I am so sorry over all of this that is happening to you. The truth is, no matter how much effort the school put together to combat bullying, there are things that will still happen out of your control. And the way you respond to the things that you cannot control will help you be the hero of your story. And that become my message later on, where I realized that no matter how much effort we are putting towards bullying, there is one aspect that we are not addressing enough, and that is the impact in the lives of the victim. And
Mm-hmm.
if we can actually start responding and serving the victim while also addressing the bully's behavior and activity, we can go a long way to making sure that people are not hurting themselves, people are not, quitting their jobs, people are not running away from their responsibility because of the painful situation that they have to deal with. And that pretty much become my message to the students, and empowering them that life will throw you a curveball, things will happen out of your control. That's my message to professionals that are going through the workplace. And I gotta tell them, like, even though you are passionate about your work, but the dynamic of being a professional is dealing with other people. And people can be messy at times.
Mm-hmm.
People got their insecurity that they're gonna put on you. And the way you respond to the things you cannot control will help you be the hero of your story. And out of being a hero of your story, you can inspire someone to be the hero of their story as well.
Neskens, your story um, is really incredible when we think about the resilience that it took for you to um, move through all of those scenarios in your life. Where did you find the resilience? Where did they come from? Like, was it from that
Uh,
moment with that teacher, or like do you have an origin story for that, or is it?
well, the I started speaking with, again, very young, when I was leading in youth group in churches. And one of the things that I did know that I have, what number one was a leadership understanding. And number two, it was my ability to communicate. But somehow, when you've been through so much pain and trauma, one of the things that you don't want to do, you try to don't talk about it or put it
Mm-hmm.
aside when you get to a point where you don't have to face it anymore. And that was that stage that I was entering when I was moving to college, starting to go through my professional career. I was able, as an entrepreneur, I was doing a lot of things by myself. And I did not have to deal with other people. And then one day I came across an article that was published by an organization in Ottawa, Canada, and said that, after the pandemic, especially and before, it was the dynamic of youth dealing with mental health. And the statistic that are proving to those in studies is, there is a high level of attachment between bullying and mental health. That those who have experienced bullying are most likely to experience other
Mm-hmm.
mental health issues, such as PTSD, anxiety, depression,
Yes.
and so on. So seeing that and seeing what I have been through and what I had to deal with, and now that I'm coming to the other side of it, I decided to go and actually share my message. So it started with just an email that I sent to some of the schools that
Mm-hmm.
were in my school board. And a month later, one school responded to me, and I went to that school, first presentation, and there was a young lady. She was 14 years old. Her father is been abusive. Her mother is on the run in a community, hiding from the father. She got like 4 or 5 siblings, and she been in therapy. She was sexually molested by a family member when she was a little bit younger, and she actually been contemplating suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And in my presentation, she came back with tears in her eyes, saying, "Neskens, what you have said today helped me to understand that I have been hurt, and I am hurting, and there are people around me that can help me, and I need to lean on those." And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it, my message as well, in becoming the hero of your story. The analogy that I always use is the phenomenal movies of the Marvels movies. And they are all superheroes, but they are superheroes working together
Working
because there
together.
is strength in numbers. There are other people around you that can help you navigate through what you are going through. And that is one of the things, rather you are children that I speak to in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, university, or adults, we
Mm-hmm.
all struggle with the aspect of asking for help. And one of the saddest thing about it, when you have people around you that are able to help you, and they don't even know about it. It is painful to them because they care about you, but somehow you're not reaching out and asking for it. So I empower them to ask for help, because asking for help will help you to overcome, will give you a new perspective about your situation, but will also unlock some potential out of you, because sometimes either bullying or self detrimental behaviors will arise in
Hmm.
silence, in the dark. When we bring it into light, into the public, the people, of course, that care about us will help us to navigate through it.
Well, I mean, this is where I was going to go next, was about empowerment and what steps
Yeah,
can children take, or what steps can parents take or educators take, to support kids through these challenges. And it sounds like, one of the things you're talking about is encouraging people to speak up and to
yeah.
share what's going on. Do you have any other items that we could talk about here?
Yeah, so the main point is encouraging an environment that speak up, because especially dealing with the rise of cyberbullying. Now I have students crying on my shoulder saying, Neskens, there are people that are using my the tonality of my voice, putting it in AI system and making me say things that I don't even say, making me say some of the most racist things, some of the
Mm,
most xenophobic, homophobic comment. And now people are laughing at me. People are pointing fingers at me. I got teachers calling me like Willie, interviewing me. Did I say those things? And I never said them. And I said the number one thing we have to understand to do is to not internalize it. Create an environment of trust as a teacher, so that student can actually feel safe
mm,
to speak about these things, because bullying will continue to arise and take more strength whenever it's hidden and whenever it's in silence. The second thing, focusing on the victim, that I always speak about is for educators and those that are in an ability to influence, especially to serve either parents, is understanding that one of the painful impact of bullying that happen in the lives of the victim, number one, it takes away your voice and it
mhm,
destroys your self-esteem. And the way I describe self-esteem, it's a combination of self-confidence and self-respect. It's continue to destroy your self-confidence, the way you view yourself. And we all know that our self-confidence, it's a superpower for a
mhm,
human to actually do the things that they want to do with a clear mindset. And number two, it's self-respect. And when it destroyed your self-respect, it also destroyed your ability to actually ask for people to respect you. Because number one, you start saying that, the things that they have said about me, the way that people have treated me, are actually true. So helping a student find their voice, one of the key questions that I always ask is, where did you lose it? And that is something that we
mm,
use in neurolinguistic coaching, where you actually help someone to what we call a timeline therapy, going in the past to understand the emotion that is attached to the painful situation. But it's asking, where did you lose your voice? Once you see that situation that took away your voice, you can actually find ways to overcome it. And sometimes, and that's a part of self-awareness, but it's also a part of revisiting, some of the challenges that we face that sometimes have an emotion attached to it, and somehow we wired ourselves to actually learn to let that
mm,
go. And by letting it go is understanding that, what happened is not also who I am, and what they said about me or what they have done to me, it's not really who I am. And I am much better, I am much stronger. And another things that teachers and parents can do is continue to encourage and push a student to do productive things. Sometimes we don't think how valuable that is, but when a student, when a youth, when someone is doing things that are valuable to their passion, to their
mm,
purpose, to their something that they love to do, it continues to build up their self-esteem. It gives them a way to communicate, to be engaged in community and so on, so that they are not left out. And by doing something that they love, that passion of
mm,
life, that passion of serving others, that passion of being confidence and finding self-respect again, cultivating more of self-awareness about their situation will come because they're doing something that they love.
I mean, I think that's a really great advice for educators, right? So we
Yeah,
see these students that are hurting. How do we focus our attention on the victims? I mean, often we're like, we turn our attention to the bullies. We need to help the bullies be better. And we forget about the victims. But I love what you said there about like finding their passions, empowering them in the classroom, like building back that confidence. Let them be the stars, right? Like let's give it
yeah,
back to them. Let's give them voice back to them. Uh,
100%.
I think, I mean, your passion just rings clear on this. So I mean, I'm going to encourage anybody who's listening, like get a hold of us. Let's make sure that we get Neskens to your organization where he can talk directly to students or teachers or administrators, whoever it might be. Um, with that, I got some fun questions for you, Neskens, that I want you
Yes,
to
sir.
answer. But let's get
Yes,
to know
sir.
you a little bit in a few different ways. So, you talked about the Marvel characters earlier. I can tell that you're a fan. I'm gonna give you a superpower right now to
Yes, sir.
help you in your mission against bullying. What superpower would you pick and why?
Ah, ah, oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Well, my my favorite character would not be the superpower that I would pick. My favorite character is Iron Man.
Okay.
But in my mission, I think I would choose Doctor Strange
Mm,
because the ability to go back in time
sure.
and actually help someone, overcome what they are dealing with, and sometimes even help them, deal with it in the present and preparing them for the future. I believe the ability to travel between times would be the superpower that I would pick.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time manipulation is I could see how that would be very helpful, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's try this one. Um, do you have a memorable moment from your public speaking engagements that really stuck with you? You did talk about the girl that came up afterwards, and it sounds like there was like a pivotal moment where you
Mhm.
shifted her thoughts from suicide to engagement and empowerment. Is there any funny moments that stand out, or an adventure that you got on while you were public speaking that you
Mm.
want to tell us about?
Yeah, well, the most touching moment for me every keynote speaking is usually teachers. It's usually teachers that that are actually break down crying in my
Yeah.
presentation. And a part of my message, again, is encouraging healing, is encouraging, we have to let things go. You're encouraging to accept the fact that we all have a story, we all have an experience, we all been hurt at some level, and we have to learn to let release that anger so that we
Mm-hmm.
don't take it on ourselves or take that anger on other people. And something that's always touching to me is the teachers, the educators, how that message moved them. And sometimes I think, we overlook the fact that as these educators are pouring in the lives of these children, they are also dealing with personal things. They are also dealing with hurt. They are also dealing with disappointment. They are also dealing with betrayal. Some are dealing with divorce. Some are
Mm-hmm.
dealing with grief, and they are showing up every single day and pouring in the lives of these children. And and I have that situation where we had to pause the speaking engagement to
Mm-hmm.
get a couple people, and that always touched me because most of the times when I get booked at a school, the focus is on the students, and then it's like the educators get so moved
Mm-hmm.
by it. And the other things that I didn't even know that was happening, but it's teachers that are coming back to me and saying that when the presentation is done, the keynote and workshop is done, they can even teach after that because the students are so moved by it and
Yeah.
they start speaking about it in the classroom that sometimes the debrief of that what just happened and their experiences and people that are starting to speak up and etc., sometimes it takes the whole teaching time.
You're right.
So that these are the two things that are always happening, are always move my heart and warms my heart. And one of the most that one almost made me cry. It was I was in a country area 5 hours away from where I'm staying. It was in the northern side of Ottawa. I was at it's a very large school, but those community have like one big high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there speaking, and then there was a special ed class. And for high school, one of the things that I do is also give them personal leadership tools. And one of the workshops that we do is context, purpose, and result and actions. How to actually build result that you actually want, but also discover the why you want it. Why do
Mm-hmm.
you want those results, and develop a context for it. And start building your actions on how you're gonna do small things to get those results while holding that purpose of the why you want it and that context of that mindset. And in that presentation in that school, it was the very first time. After I do that workshops, I invite a couple of students to share the CPR. And 2 or 3 students came forward, they sharing the CPR. And then the next person that raised her hand, it was a special ed student that never stood up and speak in front of other
Mm.
students. And she walked in front of the room. She's a special ed autism student that is in grade 11 or grade 10, and she started speaking in front of the assembly,
Wow.
and everybody's shocked. And now, right after she's done speaking, another special ed student raised his hand and came forward in front of the room. And the teachers was like in the studio, was like, we never even heard them speak before.
Yeah,
And that really moved me, seeing
that's amazing.
people finding their power and actually taking action on it.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the memorable stories of my speaking engagement that I had.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Knowing you and knowing the passion and knowing the stories, like it moves people, and that's the whole point of empowerment. Um,
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more. So, when you're not advocating for youth or studying, what's your favorite way to unwind and have fun? Like where do you go recharge? What do you do? Like, what's your fun
So,
time?
soccer, man. I play soccer. I play soccer. That's my thing, man. That's my thing. I go out, I'm missing goals, I'm not as good as I used to be, but I love talking
Mm.
trash to the other player that are beating my team. And I love it, man. It's the way I will I clear my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most fun thing that I've always done. I'm always been an outgoing person. I love nature. I love hiking. I love
Mm.
being in out. I'm not a gamer. I spread love to all the gamers that are able to sit in front of their TV or computer and unwind. But that's
And that's
that's
not
not
you.
me. That's not me, man. I gotta be out.
Well, before we wrap up, Neskins, do you have one last call to action, like a power statement? Like, how can how can how can people get involved in the fight against bullying for youth empowerment? Like, what's your one like nugget of truth that you want to play out?
Yeah. Well, one nugget of truth that I like to let out is um the victims and the bully are hurting. Both of them are hurting. Sometimes we focus more on the bully, sometimes we forget about the victim, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a clear dynamic that hurt people often hurt other people.
Mm-hmm.
And for most bully, that's the way of responding to the pain that they are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes hurt people take that pain on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we have seen a lot with the victim. One of the statistics that I heard recently throughout COVID was that the rate of students and youth making attempt to suicide have tripled throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think this is the time that we take a stand in addressing bullying effectively, where no side get left out. And we continue to do so to create a healthy environment for the well-being of all students so that they can learn and study effectively and continue to
Mhm.
stand up in their community.
All right, there you heard it. And with that, that's a wrap for episode 54 of Talent Dead. A huge thank you to our guest, Neskens Jr Dorcelus, for sharing his incredible journey, being vulnerable, being authentic, and his insights into combating bullying and really championing this voice for our youth. Um, let's see, we talked about resilience, we talked about the power of supportive communities. We talked about the transformative impact of empowerment. We talked about being a hero, being your own hero, but leaning on other heroes as well. To our listeners, I want to remember the conversation doesn't end here. I want you to connect with School Pro, to book Neskens for your next event, and join us in making a difference in schools. And with that, thank you for tuning in. And remember, let's all stay PKS, which is positive, kind, and supportive in our interactions. Until next time, keep empowering and uplifting those around you. Thank you, Neskins.
Thank you so much, Eric.